It's Flames Nation Radio, and yet again, we're back with an emergency podcast. This is our third emergency podcast of the season, by my count, and it's for a good reason. So let's just back things up. We're recording this Thursday over the noon hour. So here is how the day has gone. First of all, it's made official. The Nashville Predators will be hosting the 2023 NHL Awards and the 2023 NHL Entry Draft. For some reason, the entry draft's on a Wednesday and Thursday this year. I think the idea is they want to get it out of the way so they can I think we're going to have a July 1st free agency, but they haven't sent out the calendar yet. So that is the least important news of the four news items. News item number 2, it's Brad Living's birthday. He's 53 today. Happy birthday, Brad. According to our friend Eric Francis of Sportsnet, Eric reports that Brad is in Texas, Austin, Texas, because one of Brad's daughters is moving into school this week. So Brad on his birthday is down in hot as hell Texas, moving his daughter into school. So congratulations! It's always kind of fun. You know, I'm sure we all wish we didn't have to work on our birthdays. Brad is doing dad duty and his regular job duties on probably what's a sweltering Thursday for him down in Texas. But I'm told Austin's very pretty. My friend Christian spent some time in Austin growing up, and he said it's a beautiful town. So apparently, if you have a chance to go to Austin, Texas, take the chance, because apparently it's really cool. So that brings us to the hockey portion of this program. So 2 moves happened. One move in particular might be exciting for Flames fans. So the rumor that wouldn't go away pretty much since the beginning of the summer, especially since the Flames, they lost the services of Johnny Gaudreau to free agency, and then they made the Jonathan Huberdeau Matthew Tkachuk swap. The rumor that wouldn't go away is, man, they don't have Tkachuk anymore. He's kind of a pain in the ass. Nazem Kadri seems like he'd be a good fit, and the consensus amongst most hockey people would be, yeah, he would be a good fit. Don't know how that would happen though. He probably wants too much money. Don't know how they're going to fit him in. Our pal Pat Steinberg on the site has written extensively about the possibility of Kadri coming to the Flames. The Flames continuing interest in Kadri. Of course, they'd be interested in Kadri. Kadri's really, really good. And most recently, despite not being 100%, was a really big piece of a Stanley Cup championship team. So, but for various reasons, Kadri had not signed a contract somewhere. There were reports that his contract asks were, as you'd expect a guy coming off a career year in a Stanley Cup, they weren't insubstantial, and Colorado couldn't fit him in. And honestly, a lot of teams couldn't fit him in. And so the rumor came out this morning that, I believe it was Shayna Goldman, our friend at The Athletic, who mentioned on Twitter that, hey, Kadri won't be, he's going to go somewhere. So Shayna did not say where, but Shayna was the first one to have the Kadri's going somewhere thing. So about 10:30 Mountain, Kevin Weeks tweeted one tweet with 2 bits of information. 1, Nazem Kadri is going to the Calgary Flames. 2, Sean Monahan is being traded to the Montreal Canadiens to open up space. We've gotten additional details from Elliot Friedman on Twitter that Nazem Kadri has signed with the Calgary Flames. It has not been officially announced yet as of this recording. Reportedly, it's 7 years at $7 million a year. If you're going, how are the Flames going to afford that? The way they afford it is there's yet to be, I believe the trade call hasn't happened yet. I think they've filed something with the league, but it's not announced. I don't think the trade call's happened as of this recording. Sean Monahan being traded to the Montreal Canadiens. Apparently, both I believe it's been reported in a couple different places. Eric Engels of Sportsnet, along with I believe UFA Dean Molberg, both suspect that a first-round pick is going with Monahan to Montreal. Our friend Pat Steinberg noted that it's a substantial. I believe, I forget the term he used, and I don't want to misquote Pat because I love the way he phrased
it.
A significant asset.
I sent that tweet to a few people. It was a significant asset attached to move Monahan.
So essentially, in terms of the main roster implications, the Flames essentially swap out Monahan for Kadri. Their cap commitment goes up by $625,000. Monahan was in the final year of a 7-year deal with a $6.375 million cap hit. if the Kadri making $7 million is the case, and it probably is, that's a $625K bump up, which isn't insubstantial. But for the Flames, I believe before that move, we projected them to have 1.26 million in cap space. Checking my super beautiful spreadsheet, after that move, the Flames would have about $637,000 in cap space on a 23-man roster. Here's the roster I have the Flames having and how we got to that math. Markstrom, Vladar, and net, Uyghur, Hanifin, Shillington, Tanev, Anderson, Zadorov, and Valimaki on the blue line. Valimaki is a 7. He's the most expensive 7 they can possibly have, which is why we're plugging him in, because this is basically the worst case scenario in terms of the Flames filling out the roster. On the forward ranks, let's go wing to wing. Huberdeau, Mangiapane, Pelche, Lucic, Kadri, Lindholm, Backlund, Rooney, Jones, Toffoli, Coleman, Dubé, Lewis, and Bishop are your forwards. So 14 forwards, 7 defensemen, 2 goaltenders for a cap commitment of $81.863333 million. So you got $637,000 in cap space. I put this on Twitter. I'll just flat out say it here. The Flames are sharing a building with their farm team this year. And so what they did when they had the taxi squad was they played games with the cap. And by that, I mean, there's nothing illegal about it, but they waived some guys, including Shillington, and basically flowed them back and forth under NHL rules during the regular season. At all times, you must have an active roster of 20 skaters. 20 players. So you have to have 2 goaltenders and you have to have at least 18 skaters. You can have as many as 21 skaters, but we say 23-man roster because that's the maximum and you project for the maximum. The Flames probably, I think, given their cap situation, given the roster situation, and given that they share a minor league, their minor league team shares a building with them, I imagine they're going to use waivers to get as many players waiver exempt as possible after the season starts, and then they'll just float guys back and forth on game days. So that's something they can do. There's nothing against the rules. Your per diem in the minors is a little bit less, but I mean, they're gonna be sharing NHL facilities, so I think that might blunt the impact of things a bit. And they have a bunch of guys on one ways, and if you're on waivers and you get sent down to the minors, and if you're on one way, you get paid your NHL money regardless. So it's not like anyone's gonna go broke because the Flames decide to get creative with the salary cap.
And some of the older guys have 2-way deals that guarantee more than the base minimum in the minors too. Like Matty Phillips, what's he got? He's guaranteed like 200,000, was it? Something like that.
It's listed somewhere. Yeah, the folks
find it on Puckpedia, but like some of those guys they're making good money down there, and they don't. And like you said on our regular scheduled episode last night, they don't pay escrow in the minors. So
yeah, so it's I mean, this is a bold move. We've seen many folks on Twitter make comments of, I think our friend Sammy Hughes out of Toronto's biggest Flames fan. We love you, Sammy. He posted the meme of the call an ambulance old man, and then he pulls out the gun and says, "But not for." That's basically Brad Treliving's summer. Brad Treliving, let's be honest, has had a challenging summer. I think the Flames in general have had a challenging summer. When you start things off hoping you can sign your 2 best players, and then they both decide to go elsewhere, that's a kick to the beans. There's really no way of dressing it up. If you put together a team and you believe in your players, you go, damn, well, run it back with the same guys, see what happens. And 2 of the guys are like, I'd rather go try something else. I mean, it sucks. But
now they've got long-term skilled.
They got Huberdeau signed for $1 million years. He's signed till 2031, which is a real year. 9
seasons.
Kadri reportedly 7 years. The cool thing is, Nazem Kadri was a guy the Flames have targeted in the past. They infamously made the non-trade in 2019. I believe the swap was going to be, I believe Steve Simmons posted this at the time, a little bit afterwards. It would have been Kadri and Connor Brown to Calgary for Mark Jankowski and TJ Brody. And at that point, the Flames were coming off that 18-19 playoff run, and they were like, they just gotten ragdolled by Colorado. They just weren't good enough. And I think they wanted to add some of the stuff that Kadri brings. And Nazem Kadri, our friend Steve Dangle over at SPDN has, ranted and raved extensively about the things that you sometimes love and hate about Nazem Kadri's game. He is at best and at worst peak Kadri. He is a shit disturber in the best sense of the word. And if you're the Flames, you're going, I think if you're looking for skill for skill swap, I think swapping the silky finesse play of Gaudreau for Huberdeau makes sense. I mean, Huberdeau is bigger. You mentioned it on our regular schedule episode. He's lankier. He sort of has a lot of versatility to him. Huberdeau, I think, is a really, really good player. And I think he's a good fit for what the Flames want to do. But if you're looking for figuring out a way to replace let's be honest, the shit disturbedness of Matthew Tkachuk, the tough to play against, the agitator, the thing that makes other teams go nuts. Kadri might be the best player available that combines skill and size. And let's be honest, I mean,
and they already
this will sound like a really mean dismissal of Matthew Tkachuk, and I don't mean to be, because I covered Tkachuk for 6 years. I really enjoy Tkachuk as a player and as a person. Kadri's got a ring. And so the Flames managed to, in this whole merry-go-round of players, they added a Stanley Cup ring. So now they have 3 Stanley Cup rings. They have a cup winner from each of the last 3 Stanley Cups.
And a guy that scored one of the big goals, the overtime winner, with a broken hand, with a shattered hand.
He was not 100%, but if the idea is you want key players in your team to be the old-fashioned jump on my back, boys, we're going to go win it. I think having Huberdeau, who's hungry to win, and Kadri, who is hungry to win and has won recently, to go with Coleman, to go with Toffoli, to go with any number of up and coming guys they have, I think that's huge. And we talked about, I mentioned this on Twitter, like last night's episode, the episode we recorded last night, went up on Thursday morning, was about, are the Flames better? And goaltending, they got lots of versatility. They have a Vezina runner-up goaltender backed up by a guy who's on a league minimum deal and has nothing but potential still. And their third stringer is the AHL goalie of the year. Blue line, they got 6 guys you can basically pick names out of a hat and get decent pairings out of. And I still think they feel that, if you look at down the depth chart, Valimaki's got NHL upside still. Who knows if he ends up playing in the NHL this year, but I think there's still that potential. Connor Mackey was excellent in the American League. Dennis Gilbert's been a good AHLer. He's got upside. He's played NHL games. Nick Maloche spent most of the year in the NHL last year, and he's got a little bit of that shit disturber in him. We saw him get speared in the crotch. Groin by Markstrom last year. And then the who knows what the hell happens with Michael Stone. Even if Michael Stone decides to go do something else with his time, and hopefully he's managed to, hopefully whatever he does on his own terms. But I think the Flames are 10 deep in NHL caliber defensemen who can help the team. The forward group was the one I had issues with. And
I love this, because when was the last time Calgary had 3 centers that actually properly slotted 1, 2, 3, and it wasn't an overmatch for them?
Oh, here's my question. Here's my question. Who are Kadri's wingers? Huberdeau or do you split them up? Or
I still Lindholm still has the best shot. I still want Huberdeau with Lindholm. Kadri's a 2C to me. Lindholm's still your number 1 center. Lindholm's a shutdown guy. He's the guy you put out there. You face the best guys. Do you put defensive wingers with him, or do you put scoring wingers with him? I'll have to see. But Kadri to me is a perfect 2C to bump back and down.
Here's the top 9 I have on paper, and you and I can get in this in a second about how you mix and match these guys. So I have Huberdeau, Kadri, Toffoli, Mangiapane, Lindholm, Coleman, Pelche, Backlund, Dubé, and then any number of guys below there. So I still have the mindset of, I don't love Pelche being in the top 9 by default. I think he's well suited for the role, but if you try him and he doesn't work, then you got challenges. But I also think that when you're rolling him out on the third line with those 6 guys ahead of him, like you can. I think the nice thing is, you can use right now there is one right shot center in the top 9, and you can use Kadri. You can use Lindholm as the right wing and slot in and bring Toffoli down, and maybe you put Dubé up the middle somewhere and use Backlund as a 2C at times. Maybe, I think the nice thing is you got 4 guys you're probably comfortable with working as centers, 3 regular guys and 1 guy you can use in a pinch. And then, wingers, I think, Mangiapane could be a top guy, Coleman, Toffoli, Huberdeau. I think they have a lot of, I think that they have a lot of versatility in that group that they didn't have previously. And we talked about the defensive group. I think that this makes them a tougher team to match up against.
Kadri's no slouch on both sides of the puck, anyways. Like he's been fine either way. He's especially good on the power play. He's always been a good power play guy from the middle of the ice. Now we'll have to see because that's Lindholm's spot on the Flames team, so he could take the bumper spot down low because Kadri can take a beating and it doesn't affect him as much, but so can Mange. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. If like I tweeted this out earlier, I said if Michael Backlund's your 3C, you're doing just fine. And if Pelche is stapled to Backlund, Kadri, or Lindholm in any way, my worries kind of disappear about that.
It gives him a life preserver. And the nice thing is, like, you can, I think you're comfortable using any of those three guys as your centers against tough opposition. And so let's just say, like, okay, Pelche, we're going to graduate you and see how you do. You have the ability to really shelter him, especially at home, because I think they have the ability to give him, if Pelche needs some help, you can put him with guys who can give him some help and do the heavy lifting and allow him to sort of get some comfort. If he adapts really quickly, you have the ability to really throw him in there. And also, we have, we're still talking about, like, Adam Ruzicka was in the NHL last year, and he was pretty good. So potentially, maybe he forced his way into that conversation.
Well, he's a perfect injury spot for any of those three guys, because then, like, if Kadri goes out, you're not shy to plug Backlund in as your 2C, and then you can roll Ruz as your 3C. He's a perfect injury replacement right now, and if he comes in and proves himself, he'll get more ice time.
Again, I still, it feels like they need one more top 9 guy, like someone you can, because, like, ideally, if the group is built properly, you don't necessarily need to use all the fourth line guys all the time. Like, you should have, I think, one more guy, because that way the fourth line mix I have is Lucic, Rooney, Lewis, and then maybe one of the call-up guys, like I've Ben Jones and Clark Bishop as the guys, because they've been in that role, they're fine. But maybe ideally, do you want to be playing 80 some games of Lucic, Rooney, Lewis? Maybe Ruzicka's in that group, maybe Phillips, maybe someone else. Like, I mean, I'm really curious what they end up doing, but I think it's pretty impressive. I mean, the summer that Treliving's had, and just if you look at the team, like, I pulled the goals and wins above replacement numbers from our friends in Evolving Hockey, and I think it's if you look at the guys who are leaving last year combined for 55.3 goals above replacement, 9.7 wins above replacement. That includes Tyler Pitlick, who the Flames had for the first chunk of the season. Granted, he was in the negatives. So is Monahan, Carpenter, Yarncroke, Goodbranson, Kachuk-Gaudreau. Obviously, Goodbranson, Kachuk-Gaudreau were the net positive players. But if you look at the other side, I mean, Rooney was replacement level in for the Rangers. It's a fourth liner. Fourth liners are always, most of the time, fourth liners are going to be replacement level.
Are the replacement level? Like,
yeah, like if they were better, they wouldn't be replacement level.
Exactly.
But Uyghur is a net positive. Kadri net positive. Huberdeau's net positive. So essentially, you swapped out 4 net positive or 4 net positives, or 3 for 3 rather, and then it's basically Rooney for Monahan is basically a saw off.
Well, you could even say you replaced Richie with Rooney.
Yeah, and this is assuming this is assuming that guys who get bigger roles aren't going to be like, is Mangiapane going to do better getting more power play time? Yeah, probably. I mean, why wouldn't he? So
I still think I have Mange penciled for 30 goals myself. I like to keep them in tiers. I don't like to say outright numbers because I'm like, I don't have a model to run and predict for me, but his skill level dictates he's a 30 goal scorer. And if he's getting top 6 ice time, he should get 30 goals. Now, I don't think he's a point per game guy, but that's just part of the game he plays and the roughness. Like, he's not a super passer.
He was used in the shutdown role the last couple of years. So, the fact that he had 30 some goals, getting very little power play time and playing a shutdown role is pretty good. So I don't know. I'm fascinated as to what we're going to see in training camp, because this is a completely different team that it was a year ago. By swapping out 3 or 4 guys, it's a completely different team. And I think, I'm not sure if you want to say, to answer the question we posited in the regular episode, are the Flames better? I would say goaltending, at least a push. They might be a little bit better. but at the very least a push. Defense, yes, definitively they're going to be a better team on the blue line, which probably makes the goaltending a little bit better because they're going to see even, they might be even stingier defensively than they were a year ago. And so, and you have, for the most part, a group of guys. I mean, they're returning what? If they have what? Off the top of my head, they got 4 new faces. And so that means they're returning something like 18 or 17 players who played for the Flames last year. So you're getting a bunch of guys who are used to Daryl Sutter hockey. You're slotting in a handful of new faces who are the only guys who really need to be integrated. And then you cut them loose, send them. It's going to be.
They can mix and match too. Like it doesn't have to be concrete one way or the other. They if you, like you said, Kadri could play 1C minutes if you ever need him to, and you could knock Lindholm down. Be interesting to see what they do after special teams, and who of these new guys who joins the special teams units. We talked about the D on the other podcast. This is more about Kadri, and I do want to say I will miss you, Monty. You were a pinpoint of a rebuild that gave a lot of young fans hope, and
I think
you got your 20 goals a year. And
the fascinating thing is, Monahan was one of 3 first rounders in that 2013 draft that really kicked off the rebuild.
That worked out.
And that's the thing, like they nailed that pick. He came in and was able to be integrated into the roster right away. Yeah. And then that set the table for the rebuild. I mean, if Feaster and John Weisbrod botched that pick, the Flame, you're basically starting from scratch. And because they didn't, because that 11 draft got you some decent young players, including Johnny Gaudreau. But I mean, Laurent Brossoit turned into an asset. Gaudreau, Granlund, Wotherspoon, Sven Baertschi got them a second rounder. I mean, they turned a lot of stuff in that 2011 draft into useful pieces. But especially, Monahan comes in and he's able to play top 6 minutes right away. And Sean Monahan was basically the Sean Monahan we know from like 14-15 onward. As soon as Gaudreau got here, basically that 14-15 year, Gaudreau arrived at the end of it. But Monahan was already Monahan before Gaudreau got here. And Gaudreau got here, and then they were off to the races. And Sean Monahan played a lot of good hockey, but in a lot of years the team was pretty lean, and he and Gaudreau were, along with Mark Giordano, and then
they pulled to each other.
Yeah, they were 3 or 4 reasons to watch the Calgary Flames, 5, 13, and 23 for a while, and then they kept scaffolding onto it. But without 23 working out, you don't really have anything to scaffold onto. If you don't have the way Treliving builds his teams is goaltender, center, and blue liners. And you can you fill in the gaps along the wings. But if Monahan doesn't work as your best center for as long as he did, who the hell knows who the team would be? It's a bit
they would have finished or who they would have been drafting.
So it's
changed everything. And he gave fans a reason to cheer. He gave the kids a reason to cheer. And that's the thing. You want kids to have something to cheer for, because that's how you grow your fan base for the future. So
yeah. And I mentioned this during the playoffs. I feel a little bit bad for Sean because, right as the party gets good, he's sort of shown the door. I mean, it's
a complete core shuffle. Like you had Gio, Monty gone, Bennett, Kachuk gone. Like it's a new piece. Who's going to take the reins? Like you assume the guys with the long-term contracts.
There's one player left from the reserve list from when Brad Treliving arrived, Michael Backlund.
Yeah.
Everyone else has been
they replaced everyone. Drafted him, coaches him again. So
that's we'll see what happens. Like I said, we're still waiting on the details for the Sean Monahan trade. So check out the site and our socials for those details as they come in. I assume Pat will have them very quickly once they're out there. So if you're not following Pat, shame on you. And make sure after Pat tweets it, you say thanks, Pat, because he likes always say thanks, Pat, because we're polite around here.
100 replies all saying thank you, Pat, please.
So I think that'll basically do it for this emergency edition. As always, brought to you by our beautiful, wonderful, lovely friends at Montana's, at DoorDash, and at Rupert's Whiskey from Eau Claire Distilleries, the official whiskey of the Calgary Flames. Interesting day, very monumental day in the world of the Calgary Flames, and I imagine there's probably more coming.
Ryan Leslie did say to Pat on the radio that he expects more coming, and there's 2 free agents that I would like. No info preemptively, people.
What do you think, Sonny Milano?
Sonny Milano or Evan Rodriguez would be awesome. They could slot in the top 9. They could be that extra piece. And being they're still available this late, the later it is, the less money they tend to sign for. If they move Valimaki in that 1.5, they have more than enough guys, like we talked about, Gilbert, Milosh, and Mackey, to fill in the bottom end. Heck, they could bring back Stone again too.
Yeah,
and
Brad Treliving,
Milano or Rodriguez.
If there's one thing we learned today is that Brad Treliving never stops working, even on his freaking birthday. So
even in Texas, like
that's maybe why maybe that's why his birthday is so big, because even the birthdays are bigger in Texas. So I think that'll do it for this emergency edition. I'm Ryan. He's Shane. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys back in our regularly scheduled time slot next week. Unless something else weird and exciting happens, then we might just do another one of these. But have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next time.